live, hopefully. If we're not live, then that is a bit worrying, but you know, that's why I always start a little bit early just to sort of figure that stuff out and make sure that everything is running smoothly. So, it seems like we are live on YouTube, hopefully. Okay, it doesn't look like. Yeah, it's always weird doing this sort of stuff here. Well, that's why I start early, you know. But I hope y'all are having a good weekend here. This should be a pretty fun one. We got a GOAT locals, which is very exciting because, I mean, it's GOAT, you know. GOAT is popular for a reason. A very, very iconic format. A very, very fun format. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to exploring it with y'all today. We got an exciting event for y'all today. It should be a good one here. We got at least 8 players playing, based on the last time I checked here. So, you know, hopefully we get a little bit more, but if we don't, you know, that's also fine. 8 is perfectly good number there for a tournament. And yeah, we should be live there. Okay, it looks like we're live on Twitch as well. So we're live everywhere. Okay. So looking pretty good. I'll just send out the sort of info where I'm streaming, and yeah, we'll get this party started because it is 10:59 EST. We're starting at 11 EST. So yeah, this thing will get started pretty soon. Yeah, I just need to make sure I share both my YouTube and my Twitch. I'm not as used to doing that, but there we go. Okay, it looks like we got one more player signing up, so I'm going to give them a minute. In the meantime, did you know that Dueling Book actually has a GOAT format information section, which is kind of funny? Yeah. Mild Gerbil says, this format's so egotistical, SMH. Can't believe it's calling itself the greatest of all time. Well, I mean, that's where that double entendre is, right? Like, you know, part of the reason why it's called GOAT is because it's, you know, using Scapegoat, right? That was a very popular deck at the time, Goat Control. But also because, you know, greatest of all time just happens to be in the name. So people are like, well, you know, if it's in the name, I mean, we can't argue with that. So it's kind of a fun thing there. But, you know, it's kind of neat that Dueling Book has a whole section explaining GOAT format too. You click on the question thing here, then you get that, just in case you're confused about what GOAT is. But anyways, we're going to get one more sign up, and then we're going to get this party started. We can check the challenge here. Let's just do a refresh. So we got 9 players right now. It'll be 10 once everyone's signed up. And this seating will get shuffled after we put it through RetroBot. So, you know, that'll be something there to pay attention to. But it should still be pretty fun. We got a lot of iconic duelists here. You know, we got Gerbil, who's in chat as well. We got Dump Truck, Aratos, GMYFS. You know, we got a lot of great people here. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I don't get to feature GOAT much on the channel, but I always enjoy what I do. And so yeah, I'm doing pretty good today, Indy. I hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, if everyone's doing good, you know, let me know in the chat. If people are doing not good, you can also let me know as well, and I can try and talk you through that. I mean, we're not a, you know, this isn't necessarily like I don't know, it's not like a therapy channel, but you know, I'm happy to help if I can. I like to think I'm a good talker and I can talk through things enough, but you know, sometimes people's problems are a bit bigger than what a chat can do. But you know, if I can help, I will. But okay, it looks like we've got the last person signed up here, and so I'll go into the settings of this, and I'll adjust it to unranked. Okay. Here we go. And we're going to start the tournament. There we go. We're going to shuffle the seeds. Rip, yeah, PJ. Well, I mean, life happens, you know. It's okay. You'll be able to join one of the future ones, I'm sure. But it might be a while until we're back to GOAT. But there are always GOAT events every week, so you know, there will be more to do there. But anyways, we should have, yeah, there we go, 10. So, yep, we've got 10 people in the tournament, and should be a good one. So let's hop on over to Dueling Book here. Papa Perez says, let's go. I'm also excited. Let's dive into it. So, let's see. We got GMYFS host and we got Splen host, and we're in the GOAT format section this time. We're not in the unlimited section, which is always exciting, you know, when we can actually go into a section that's laid out here for a format itself on Dueling Book. A lot of the forums that we cover on the channel don't quite have that following, so always cool when we do get to do it. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what people brought. So we'll start off with Splen and give you Blondie. This is going to be an exciting matchup. Both are pretty great duelists here, and we'll see how they do. Yeah, it's good to let the buy know that, Gerbil. Yeah, because otherwise the buy might be confused. That, you know, they might be like, where's the game? It would be very funny if someone signed up to a tournament with the name of buy. They're like, I'm the buy. I'm the buy every round. And that's my name, buy. But yeah, with 10 people, we do have some buys. So Gerbil's got a buy, Rato's got a buy. They're waiting on Splen versus Clody and Hoy versus Indy. So, yeah. May the meanest burn player win. Oh, we'll have to see how many people brought burn. It's definitely a very good deck in the format, but it also is a deck that takes a very special type of person to pilot. That's not meant to be like a knock on it or anything. It just is a thing where a lot of people don't like playing that style of deck, and the people that do, they like basically practice with the deck, run a lot with the deck, and they learn how to play it in a way that can be a bit unintuitive for your just average player trying to pick up the deck. So you'll have to see if anyone actually did bring it. In a tournament of 10 people, you know, there is a chance that no one brought it, but I'm hoping we get to see it a little bit. It's a cool deck, so and it is a deck that is around in the format, so it would be nice to get represented in this locals here. But Dust Shoot in the opener, always fun. I love Dust Shoot. Don't we all love Dust Shoot, you know? Yeah, I mean, depending on the build, it can definitely range from dumb to, you know, very scary. But it definitely does depend on the build. I hope I muted in time for that sneeze. Early morning sneezing is very fun. But Trunade coming down here. And then another Dust Shoot getting used on that, so sending back the Crane. This was a very, very good use of the Dust Shoot there, saving it for that Trunade. So now that Reason Gate can't really go off as well. I mean, you still got Reasoning, so you can potentially bring out something off that. But it does make things a lot more certain here. And Splen's going to call 4, which is the most likely option to hit, which I do think makes sense here. And there's the 4. So it worked out very well for them. But I like Reason Gate Turbo. I think it's very, very fun, but I will say, if you know how to play against it, it can be a bit awkward. Yep, it's via Discord, Lucas. So if you head on over to the Discord linked in the description of the stream, then we hold these every week, and you can join in that. We also hold monthly tournaments as well. The next monthly should be happening the second weekend of October. I haven't announced the exact date yet. I'll probably do that once October officially starts. But that's a multi-day event, so that takes place over multiple days, so it's more flexible for your schedule. But yeah, it's a great place to join, so definitely head on over there. We have people, you can get games in GOAT, you can get games in any format that I featured on the channel. So, but yeah, it's definitely been a bit of an oof of a turn here for Blondie. Getting duoed as well to lose those cards, it's just rough all around. Now, Splen hadn't really been drawing anything to get aggressive here, but they don't really need to if they're able to just, you know, basically tear apart what Blondie is doing here. So it looks like they are going to finally set. So that could be a variety of things. It could be a Magician of Faith to get back duo. It could be a Spy to, you know, flip up and get more aggressive there. A lot of potential good options for Splen here. Looks like Raigeki Break is going to be used, pitching a Parshath, which it seems like Blondie is playing the Parshath and hitting a Spy. So it was indeed the Spy. And then a Crane coming down. So it looks like Monster Gate might get fired. No Monster Gate. Okay. Or did they? Oh, they lost the Monster Gate off duo. Yeah. But yeah, it is rough that Splen hadn't had anything to get in with, but it seems like they're on GOAT control. Or I mean, they could be on Turbo just playing Scapegoat, but I feel like if you're playing Scapegoat, you're probably playing the GOAT control. And if you're playing GOAT control, you can generally take it a bit slower. And yeah, there's the meta. going for a 1,000 restrict to suck up that Sacred Crane if this goes through. And it looks like it will indeed. Yep. There it goes. And 1,600 in potentially here. And that's a 5-turn clock. But, Blondie's got a scapegoat of their own. Scapegoat's pretty good for UV here because if they draw into Monster Gate, they can do stuff with that. Like if you go Monster Gate into BLS, or not BLS, Monster Gate into DMOC, you can get back Vortex and, wipe away the whole board. But that's a bit of a best case scenario. Reading Gate Turbo is a deck that really lives and dies by its top decks in situations like this. It can be very, very powerful if you're able to actually get started. But if you can't get started, then it can be very, very awkward for you. So Sook hitting into one of these tokens here, main 2, flipping up the restrict, sucking up another token here. So slowly dismantling this board. And this is what, Goat Control wants to do. Wants to just, sort of incrementally dismantle the board, dismantle what the opponent does every turn, and just wind up with more stuff to do than they can. And that is definitely the case here. I think Goat Control is a really good deck into this sort of Reading Gate Turbo style deck. So that also, makes this a pretty bad matchup for you, Blondie here. Hitting a Mirror Force and a Solemn. Splen shooting not to Solemn that. I think that makes sense. I mean, they could get punished for it here, but it looks like Blondie doesn't have anything else to do here. So, yeah. I think it made sense not to Solemn there. Other people might have Solemn that, just being like, oh, I need to have my Mirror Force online. I need to have my, whatever online. But I think that's perfectly fine. They're going to Tribute for a Zaborg, popping a token here and getting in for 24 now. So that's pretty good there. And just increasing the clock by quite a bit. Setting 1, passing back to Blondie here. And yeah, Snatch is going to be pretty good on that Zaborg, but this is just going to give Splen 1,000 life points next turn. So you can get over the Zaborg next turn as well. So it's not really the best solution here. It does deal with the problem in a roundabout way, but Splen still comes out on top in this interaction. Oh, Pot of Greed. Oh, that's going to be rough for Blondie here. If Splen draws into Spawn Trap move for the Snatch, they might want to use that, but it looks like they're just going to go for the Sook, flipping down the Zaborg and attacking over the Zaborg. I think that makes the most sense, given what we know about Splen's hand. Splen setting another. I mean, Heavy's used up already. Could be more True Nades in the offing, but you don't really care as much about True Nade there. Best format, best deck today is a good day, says Louis Cypher. And yeah, I mean, I love this deck. I think it's really cool. Rare Metal Dragon is definitely a choice in Reading Gate Turbo. I don't like that choice because I feel like in Reading Gate Turbo you kind of need it's sort of like you need a balance of things to hit off of Reading Gate, and like you need a balance of things to be drawing when you aren't able to set that up. And Rare Metal Dragon is just a card that's, I mean, you get it engraved as like a dark because it can't be hit off of Reasoning or Monster Gate. It can't be normal summoner set. But it's just like, why go through that trouble? It doesn't really do much. It's like, I don't know, if you need Darks engraved, just play more Chaos Orcs in the deck. So that's my sort of opinion on Rare Metal Dragon there. But anyways, I like to jump around in these locals here, just see what everyone's playing. So let's dive into GMYFS versus Dump Truck now. Ooh, it seems like we might have... Oh, what is going on here? Oh my god. That is... last turn Stein, apparently. And this seems like it is Goat Control. So it seems like Goat Control versus last turn Stein. Seems like Dump Truck is also on the main deck Decree. The Granada 10 asks, when some Yu-Gi Kaiba format games? I will be saying that this week I do a tournament, or not a tournament. I do basically a weekly dose of Retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Every week. And what I like to do is I like to go over the past tournaments that have wrapped up in this week. And there was a Yu-Gi Kaiba tournament that wrapped up this past week. And I will show off the finals of that tournament. So if you want to see some very high-level Yu-Gi Kaiba gameplay later on the channel, definitely stay tuned. That will come out probably on Tuesday. That's when I generally like to put those up. So stay tuned for that. As for a locals in Yu-Gi Kaiba, that'll probably be some time away, because basically what we do is with the locals, we sort of have two different types of locals. One type of locals is to prepare for upcoming monthly events. And so that will generally be like GX era formats right now, because I'm in the GX era on the channel. So the next two locals after this one will be in Demise format, which is the format that I'm currently covering on the channel, to prepare for the monthly tournament that we'll have in Demise starting pretty soon. But for when we don't have a monthly tournament coming up to prepare for, then we sort of go based on a certain timeline. So just going through the format in chronological order, and that order has brought us to GOAT format, which is why we're in it today. But we're going to keep following that order until I catch up to what the videos on the main channel are, and then I'll go back to the beginning. But that'll probably be quite some time. So for the locals, there probably won't be a Yu-Gi Kaiba locals for quite a bit, unless we become popular enough to host more than one locals a week. But that would be something that would have to take place in the future, and be quite some time before that happens. But yeah, I'm happy to oblige. I really like Yu-Gi Kaiba format as well. A lot of people have sort of moved away from it in recent memory, because stall mill is a bit of an issue in the format. But I still think that the format can be very, very fun, and stall mill matches can be very interesting here. So anyway, it's true date happening, and it looks like Dumper's going to ask if there are any change to that, and GMYFS says no. And it looks like everything's going to return back to hand here. So the question becomes, what is GMYFS going to do with that? And it looks like they're just doing that to try and activate some traps that they couldn't activate under decree there. They might also just be resetting their swords. But worm format will be the same sort of case with Yu-Gi Kaiba in terms of the locals. Like, we won't get back to a worm format locals until we sort of reset the timeline stuff. I'm glad that it's a top 3 of all time for you. It is definitely not a top 3 of all time for me, mainly because stall mill is so powerful in worm format. And of course, the format's still relatively untested, so maybe it will turn out with more testing. Stall mill will not be one of the best decks in the room, but given how Yu-Gi Kaiba shook out, I highly doubt that. But I will say I really like that Wicked Worm Beast can really shine in that format. That's pretty fun, because basically if you've got triple Raigeki, triple Dark Hole, triple all this stuff, then being able to use Wicked Worm Beast, which normal summon it, it returns to hand in the end phase, it dodges around that removal, and then you're able to just keep hitting in. That is very, very nice. But I will say that, stall mill is very, very strong. So it's got a bit of a uphill battle to get through that. There is more removal in worm format. I mean, you've got triple Raigeki, triple Dark Hole, as I mentioned, but Ultimate Offering is still doing Ultimate Offering thing. So even if you remove a defense position monster, Ultimate Offering brings out another defense position monster, and then it's kind of rough. You've got Remove Trap to deal with that, but people play multiple Ultimate Offerings. If you draw into multiples, then it can be awkward. So, I mean, it's just kind of a rough format, I think, overall. But, if you enjoy it, that's what matters, I think. And that's sort of the philosophy that I take to covering any of these formats, People are going to like or dislike certain formats. For how well regarded GOAT is, there are people who really don't like GOAT. And that's fine if you don't like GOAT. It's fine if you like GOAT. It's fine if you like Worm. It's fine if you don't like Worm. It's just, what you want to do. And I think it's very nice to just have the option to play a variety of formats here. Oh, solving one decree and running into another, but using the Solemn on that. So it seems like that last trap is really important. Stall mill is... So it's interesting in Yu-Gi Kaiba format. Stall mill has won tournaments, and that Moth for the heavy is rough, but very, very cool stuff. Very, very controlling game there. So stall mill in worm format, I think it's tough to say whether it's better than it is in Yu-Gi Kaiba. I was looking in the unlimited section. I'm so used to that. But it's tough to say whether stall mill is better than it is in Yu-Gi Kaiba format and worm format. In Yu-Gi Kaiba format, I think it's a very, very good deck. A lot of people view it as the best deck in the format. Not unbeatable, because it hasn't won every single tournament since it's been discovered. For instance, the last tournament was won by Soul Control. The previous tournament was also won by Soul Control, although Stall Mill put up a bit more of a fight that tournament. It's a very, very tricky deck to play against. It can be a tricky deck to play. I do think, though, Soul Tiger, that is very interesting here. What is going... Oh, Heart of the Underdog. Oh, that's very cool. And yes, my Darkness actually won the first game of this, so that's kind of neat. But it is a bit tricky to, play against, and also to pilot as well. So I do think, it is the easiest of the decks if you want to do well in a Yu-Gi Kaiba tournament. Bring Stall Mill if you're still relatively new, because I do think that, in certain games, it can just be very easy to pilot to win. But if you want to, really dive into a very skill-intensive deck and a deck that is potentially, more suited to face off against Stallmill, than potentially playing one of those Judge Soul lists that uses like Ultimate Offering and, Judge Man along with triple Soul Exchange that has a pretty decent matchup against it. So, oh, it's an Exodia deck. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Heart of the Underdog into Exodia. That's neat. So, yeah, it seems like Exodia came down in game 1. We'll have to see if it comes down in game 2. Mobius here. The Mobster is going to be pretty good, especially tributing over a Sangan here. Going for the Sangan and the Mobster here. And that's, yes, my deck is just going to scoop it up. So, yeah, some spice coming out of this locals, but unfortunately it lost that game too. It was cool that it won game 1, though, so shows that it definitely has some spice there. Any other games going on? I think it's just the ones that we've seen here. Oh, there's also Jim Bob versus Houdini. I don't think that's wrapped up yet. So, yeah, let's try and see that one. Okay, it looks like I saw him on this dim fuse coming down. We got a diamond dude or a double dude token here, which is very funny. But it seems like Blondie's been able to pop off a little bit more here. But the question is, will they be able to, cinch the victory here is the question. But I want to see what Jim Bob and Houdini are playing. So let's see here. Are they in? I don't see the game right now. Let me search. Okay, it seems like they might not be playing yet. Yeah, it seems like that will have to be a no-show. Yeah, rough stuff. Yep. So rough stuff there for Houdini, but that happens sometimes. People oversleep and they or they forget that the locals is going on, and so it can be a bit tough. But still we've got the next game there. So, or actually, Jim Bob just jumping up to the semifinals right away. So that's kind of good for Jim Bob in terms of the bracketing. But yeah, rough stuff there. But yeah, I mean, I will say Double Dude Art is like it's not in GOAT format, so how can you do that? So, oh, yeah. Yeah, so the equip spell, it's not called Dark Power in the TCG. I forget what it is called. It's like Dark Energy, I think, in the TCG. But yeah, giving Legend 300 attack can solve the problem of 2k walls. But it is a bit tricky because like it's basically a 2-for-1 trade there, right? So, if your opponent is able to out the Login, which oftentimes they do save removal for, actual big threats and things like that, then you've got 2-for-1, which doesn't really matter as much against Stallmill, to be fair. But it can just be a bit awkward there. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that you can do against Stallmill is you can go hard on that sort of stuff. Like, if you have that main deck, it can be good there. The issue is that decks like that really suffer against like Soul Control, which Soul Control rises up to face off against Stallmill. So it's like, which matchup do you want to trade off against? Do you want to trade off against Soul Control, or do you want to trade off against Stallmill? So, I don't know if there's necessarily a correct answer or not. It just depends on what you think is going to be brought to the tournament and what you think will be good to see. True Nade here is a bit awkward because that Darkblade Dragon Knight returns to the extra deck. It doesn't return to the hand there. So kind of rough, but you do what you have to do. And it looks like Amazon's Archer is coming down as well. So that's going to tribute a token and 1,000 eyes, dealing 1,200 there. Magician of Faith getting flicked up, going for a graceful. I mean, this is not looking good for giving you Blondie here. Down to 1 card to Splevin's multiple. And this is why this is a pretty bad matchup here for Reading Gate Turbo. Yolo Dico. Que Watcher e la Carta. Yeah, they don't have the Gravekeeper's Watcher here. So unfortunately, you can't pull that off, but Yu Blondie is a well-known hater of Graceful Charity. And yeah, you can't really play Gravekeeper's Watcher in a Reading Gate Turbo deck. Doesn't really work out that way. But it is very funny. So yeah, you can't really play it there. But yeah, we're getting some Italian in the chat. Anyone know Italian out there? it's a cool language. I've not really learned it officially. I know a little bit of it. And also I took Latin in high school, so a lot of the words are relatively familiar. A lot of the grammar is relatively familiar. But yeah, it's a very very cool language. Yeah, no, I get the Watcher thing, but you can't really play it in Reading Gate Turbo. So I don't know. No way he wins this. I don't necessarily think that's the true. But like, I mean, listen, Charity's very very good card. But like, Go Control, like if it loses to Charity, it's like okay, I'm just gonna grind you out in the rest of this. So I don't necessarily know if the Watcher is the make or break there, but it is very funny. But yeah, pizza, pasta, Parmigiano. Parmigiano, I think it's actually a region of Italy because the cheese comes from that region. It's called like Parmigiano, I think. I could be wrong about that. Let me know. But yeah, uh, balsamic vinaigrette also balsamic is from the region. But yeah. Yeah, I spent a summer in Italy, and I did get to pick up a fair bit of the language from that summer, but it wasn't a full year. I was able to basically, like, by the end of that summer, I could basically read all the signs. Like, if I saw a sign, I'd know what it said because I personally find like reading a lot easier than speaking, just the way my brain works. So okay, Parma is the region. Yeah, so I knew it was like related to a region there, but yeah, Italian's a beautiful language. It is very very cool. I actually, while I was there, I got a lot of like Italian books, like in Italian, and I was like, I'm gonna read these. I'm gonna use these to keep up my language learning here. But I never quite got around to reading them in the original there, which is quite rough. But I want to go back to it someday. I think it would be very very cool to do. Um, yeah, especially like I have read. I think the one that would be easiest for me to read. Not in terms of like it's an easy book, but just like the one that I think I'd have the easiest time like going through would be I think it's called La Città Invisibile. I think that's the name in Italian. The name in English is Invisible Cities. It's by Italo Calvino, I think is the name. But yeah, I mean it's not going well for Clody here. It's rough. I mean duo's duo, but like yeah, Kaiki's gonna do it. So that's gonna be the end of the game. Unfortunate stuff there. But yeah, Italo Calvino is a great author. I really like what I've read of him translated. And the thing about Invisible Cities, which makes it nice, is that it is basically like a bunch of vignettes about different cities. And so each one of them is like relatively short. And okay, it looks like Hoy won here against Inexperience, so we can dive into Hoy versus Ratos. And each one is very beautiful. And I feel like it would be cool to read it in the original language and sort of get some of that beauty from the original text. So I also did pick up, I believe I picked up If on Winter's Night a Traveler, which I think is like, I forget the Italian name. It's like I know there's like Invierno or something because that's like winter. And then it's like Viage is like traveler. I need to get back into learning Italian. But yeah, I actually have not been to Sicily. That is a place that I unfortunately missed. I was up in the north in Trieste, so I mainly spent my time in the northern section of Italy there. But I have heard beautiful things about Sicily, and I want to go back to Italy at some point to see Sicily because I mean Italy is just such a beautiful country. And the nice thing about Italy too is because Italy was basically made up of a bunch of different city-states for a lot of its history. Like it didn't really unify until like the 1800s. Each part of it feels so distinct because it was distinct for a long time, and it just makes it a very very cool country to visit and very much unlike a lot of other places. But yeah, I'd love to visit Sicily. I've heard great things. Yeah, and I mean, oh, it's so good. Where am I from? I'm from Massachusetts, so the northeast of the U.S. So luckily for me, it's not like I'm in like California and I have to get to Italy. I have to like travel across the U.S. and then I got to travel to Europe. I've got very easy access to Europe, relatively. So, yeah, I've been to Italy. I went to Italy once in high school, just on a trip to Rome because I took Latin in high school. So basically the Latin class got to go to Rome just to sort of see the city where the Romans were and stuff. And it was very cool. We visited Pompeii as well on that trip. And then I went to Trieste for like a study abroad program in college for a summer. And that was a really, really nice city because the nice thing about like spending the summer in Trieste is that I feel like Trieste is a place that if you're going to Italy for like a vacation or something and you want to see the sights, you don't generally rank Trieste in like your list of places to see in Italy because, you know, there's so much there. There's like Rome, Milan, Florence, like Sicily, Naples, Pompeii, like there's so many different places, Venice, like, so if you're putting together that itinerary and you're like, okay, I got to hit all the big places. You don't put Trieste in there because Trieste is sort of like, it's a beautiful city, but compared to the others, there's not as much to see there. But I really liked spending my time there. It was a very unique city because it's basically like it's been traded back and forth between a bunch of different places around that area. Like it used to be part of like Austria-Hungary, I think, way back when. It at one point in time it was potentially there was a push to make it its own like country as well. So it was a very, very cool place to be because it had a lot of history there. James Joyce had stayed there, like that's where he wrote like Ulysses, like at the end, or that's where he finished Ulysses at least, because at the end of Ulysses, like or maybe at the beginning, there's like an author's note in Ulysses where he's like, you know, from Trieste because that's where he was. But yeah, it was very, very cool. Yeah, Rome is so cool. Yeah, we did spend a week there. We spent a week there visiting the whole city, and it was needed. Like it was. I mean, there's just so much packed into Rome. It is wild. So, yeah. And I mean, the food all over Italy, like, it's just so good. It's like, and each region has its own like specialties and like its own style of food there. And it's just like, it's so good. I don't know. It's like we got decent Italian food in the U.S., but it just can't compare to Italy. It's like you go to Italy and it's ruined for you. You're like, I can't go to an Italian restaurant anymore. You know, it's not the same. Italy just, you know, it's so much better in terms of that stuff. Yeah, also gelato. Gelato, so good. The gelato in the US did not compare to gelato in Italy at all. I literally ate gelato like every day. In both of my trips to Italy, I ate gelato every day, and I never got tired of it because it was just so good. But Mass Sorcerer in Goat, yeah, Mass Sorcerer is kind of wild in Goat. I mean, it's a decent card, as just like it gets you a draw. You know, it's a dark, so like that's neat. But it's probably a bit power crept by this point in time. So yeah, maybe not the best thing in Goat, but it's very neat to see people like trying it out if they are trying it out. But yeah, welcome to the stream, Diogo, as well. I'm not sure. I saw your earlier message. Yeah, Duo in. So it's interesting. I do think Duo does belong on the side in some formats. I think in Goat format, it does belong in the main. Just because in Goat format, there aren't as many hand rips as in other formats. And so, oh, rip. No, the heavy makes it so that the dust shoot will not fire. Oh, that's rough. They might have been saving the dust shoot for when the Sangam was gone. I don't know, but yeah. Oh, I believe it. I believe it, Granada. Oh, it's so good. I love gelato. Also, the coffee in Italy is great too. Like, I'm not a big coffee drinker. Like, I actually don't drink coffee at all in the U.S. But, you know, when you're in Italy, like, and you're hanging out with people and stuff, like, it's a part of the culture, right? I've never had a cornetto alla crema, but I've heard great things about it because I didn't actually make it out to Naples either. And I've heard it's very good, and I think they have it in Naples, but I've definitely heard it's in Sicily, and I've heard it's so good. So yeah, Saku makes Mass Sorcerer a bit tough. In Critter format where Mass Sorcerer is really good, you just have to worry about Mirror Force, right? And so you don't have to worry about that as much. But here, like, there's just too much battle traps to really stop that as well. But rip. I mean, that happens occasionally, Clody, but also you got to consider, like, if you had a Watcher in hand, you might not have had another card in hand that you maybe used to get into that situation, right? So, like, that's the thing about, like, it can be a bit of a trap thinking, like, oh, if I just had this card, I would have potentially won this, because if you have different cards in hand, you play a bit differently potentially. You potentially aren't able to do what you did before, right? If you play Watchers in the deck, especially in a Wreathing Gate Turbo deck, you potentially hit the Watchers off those Wreathing Gates. And that's a bit awkward, right? So it's always tricky to say with these sorts of things. But yeah. Also another great thing about Italy, they got a great goat scene there. I mean, goat format is very, very popular in Italy, and it's cool to see because like there's a bunch of Italian GGPs I know that fire off a fair amount of the time. So very, very cool place for that. Yeah. So next time I go to Italy, I got to bring a goat deck or two and see if I can find anyone to play. Yeah. Travel in general is just great. I highly recommend it if you have the means to do it, or if there's an opportunity to do it. Like, for instance, I went in college when, like, basically there were programs to do it, right? Like, I could just sign up for those and go abroad. But it's just such a eye-opening experience. And something that if you can do it, I definitely recommend it. Not everyone can do it, like, which is unfortunate, but it's just a fact of the world. But if you can, like, and even like if you can't go like super far, it's just good to get into another like area of the world, right? Like, for instance, if you're in the US and you can't necessarily travel like abroad or something, like let's say you can't afford getting the flight and the hotels and all that stuff, like traveling to other states can also be a similar sort of thing. I mean, there's a lot of different cultures like in the US itself that can be great to explore. But yeah, a lot of Italians asking if I'm Italian on Dueling Book. Yeah, I mean, a lot of Italians play Goat. A lot of Italians play Retro Yu-Gi-Oh. Very, very cool to see. I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a great thing for a bunch of people to play these old formats. So, always cool to see from my perspective here. But Relinquish Chaos is so, so cool. I love Relinquish Chaos. It's such a fun style of deck. And also, I think it's cool just using cards in unique ways, right? Like, part of the fun of Relinquish Chaos isn't just using Relinquish to suck up things. A lot of the time, you're using Relinquish as just sort of fodder for other things, or just a way to deck thin, or a way to get a light engrave. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. Or, I guess a dark engrave with Relinquish, but Manchu's a light. So, yeah, a lot of cool stuff you can do with Relinquish there. But Sork coming down, banishing that Dawn is a bit rough there. Armed Dragon, also very, very cool as well. Yeah, Armed Dragon is a bit underpowered in GOAT itself. I think that there are other formats in the GX era where Armed Dragon can do a little bit better. I think Chimera Tech format is potentially one where you've got a Dragon OTK deck that can be pretty cool. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, Armed Dragon definitely, all the LV stuff is very, very neat. I mean, it's iconic from the GX era. Chaz played it. So, yeah, of course it's going to be an archetype that people latch onto and try and make work. So, but that Sork will get traded with a new Doria there. So it seems like Hoy on the nude. So it seems like this might be a tomato control sort of build. But yeah, they're just setting one into a Rato set, passing back. And a Rato's pass back as well. So Spy getting flipped up, bringing out another Spy here potentially. Look at all these Spies spying on each other. Putting that in defense just to play around like Mirror Force, maybe. Playing around aggression as well, maybe. But it looks like they're going to tribute that Spy for a Mobster. Popping the back row there. Popping a Dushute, which is... Oh, that was close to being live, but not quite live here. Tacking over a Sook. Sook flipping down the Mobius. Kind of rough because the Mobius is now exposed, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It looks like Razors doesn't really have a good way to... Okay, they got a Duo here. So, Duo coming down for 1,000. Ripping 2 cards out of hand, which is rough for Hoy, to be sure. But, yeah, I mean, Razor knows what's coming. They know that the Mobius and the Spy coming through, and then drawing 3, pitching 2. I mean, this is probably going to be it. Yeah, Morphing Dart number 2 is really, really neat. And it's, like, not the hardest thing to resolve, like, in the world. I think people are confused by it. Like, it can be tricky, like, oh, if you mill high-level monsters, what happens? Things like that. But once you learn, it's, like, not that bad. But yeah, it's definitely a card that I think should see more experimentation. It's a bit of a tricky card, though, because, like, you'd think it would be a natural fit in Empty Jar, right? Because Empty Jar is Empty Jar. Ooh, pitching the Duo, that is a very bad sign for Ratos here. Because normally you'd use the Duo to, rip those last 2 cards out of hand, but looks like they're not doing that. I'm very confused why they didn't do that, but, yeah, okay, it looks like that's going to be the end of the game with the MST there. So, yeah, rough stuff for Ratos here in the end. Unfortunately, they bricked a bit, but yeah, I mean, this is basically the end of the game because this is, yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's rough. You always want to say GG's, but sometimes, people are not in the mood to do that in the end, which is unfortunate, but does happen there. But Hoy will be moving on. We got Gerbil versus Splen as well here. It looks like Splen won the first game here. But what is Gerbil playing? Is Gerbil also playing Goat Control? We see a meta engrave. Could be. But we also see Thunder Dragon, which is more of a Chaos Turbos kind of thing. So, ooh, what is Gandhi Pants? I've never heard of Gandhi Pants, Madcap. That's very interesting. Yeah, it can be a side deck tech as well. So that's kind of neat. But, yeah. Gandhi Pants. I've never heard of that deck. It's always cool to hear the names that people come up with for these decks because, like, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh could use better deck names as a whole. You look at like Magic the Gathering, and they've got like crazy deck names that are like always cool. And then Yu-Gi-Oh, we've got like it's so cool, like Goat Control, like that's kind of neat, but like it's sort of just a descriptor of the deck. It could be called like I don't know, Restriction or something because you bring out Thousand Eyed Restrict and you're restricting what your opponent does. Like, I don't know. They're just cool names that are on the table there, but no one seems to actually use. But yeah, that goes pretty good for Gerbil here. Got to use up the breaker counter as well, which is nice. But they're still able to hit into those tokens. So meta isn't able to be used on those tokens there, unfortunately. Knocking the set monster as well. So hitting a Night Assailant that gets banished, and any other Night Assailants in the deck also get banished here. So is this Turbo? That's the question. PK, okay, PK, Fire, and Pepe. Those are good names. You're right, Hoy. I guess I was being a bit too, not disingenuous, but I'm doing too much of a disservice to some of the names. Yeah, Perfect Circle, also a good deck name here. So okay, there are good deck names out there. But I feel like in GOAT format, a lot of the deck names are very standard. And in like Edison too. Like a lot of the popular ones are more standard. But Nightcap says Gandhi Pants is basically Empty Jar, but with more monsters and elements for a grind game. 3 Needleworm and 3 Morph Jar number 2. Created in Reaper format when the Empty Jar stuff got hit already. That is a very, very interesting tack to take Empty Jar. I kind of like that because I've played a bit of Empty Jar myself. And while the FTK stuff is kind of nice if you're able to pull it off, I do think that like, oh, the dice jar! The dice jar! No! That was a potentially winning move. You flipped up dice jar. And then that's 6K. But yeah, I do think that like it can be one of those decks that like can just grind out a game as well. And that's one of the neat things about Empty Jar. It's why I prefer it to a lot of the other sort of FTK decks that are sort of feast or famine. But yeah, very, very cool stuff. And that's a really, really interesting way of deriving that name because, you can win without dealing damage, and Gandhi was peaceful. So that's really neat. I'm not sure where the pants come from, but, the Gandhi stuff makes sense. Unless you're playing Civ, in which case, nuke them all, right? But, yeah, I need to play the Civ games at some point. I know the meme of Gandhi, but I think the Civ games could be cool. I feel it'd be cool to do some, like, just gaming content on the channel, like maybe doing some gaming live streams at some point. But that'd probably just be on the Twitch, because on YouTube, I know that YouTube gets really messed up when you sort of mix up what you're doing on the channel, because it likes to just have like a firm, like, okay, I recommend this channel to people who like Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's all I do, and that's what I want to be doing. That's the algorithm. Because if you mix it up, and let's say I do like a Civ stream at some point, and it's like a Civ stream recommends it to the Yu-Gi-Oh people. Some Yu-Gi-Oh people don't like Civ, and they're like, what's this? I don't want to watch this. And then YouTube receives that negative feedback, and it's like, okay, people don't like this streamer. And then they sort of stop recommending some of my streams to people then. And yeah, that's just sort of how it goes on YouTube here. But I think Twitch is a bit better with that. I don't quite know. But I've seen people do more different types of stuff on Twitch. This could be the end of the game here. This could be the end of the game. Will it be the end of the game here? If Gerbil rolls a 6. Oh, Gerbil rolled a 2. So not looking too like. Oh, but Splen rolled a 1. That's 1,000 damage there. But yeah. Diogo Peralta says, I think we should divide deck names in a few topics: aggro control, both attribute, monster type dominant, and prevalent card. I think a lot of people do that sort of thing. But I feel like it's just, you could come up with more like poetic names or something there potentially as well. But community party games like Jackbox could be fun. I've played a lot of Jackbox with like with other people, and so like I don't know. I do have some issues with Jackbox. Jackbox can be a bit awkward sometimes, but you know, it is a fun. It's fun for party games. I think I'd prefer something like more like Mario Party or something, where it's like a bit more. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I guess my issue with Jackbox is that, like, I think in the end, what I don't want to happen with Jackbox is it just coming down to like for instance, if you play Quiplash, right? Quiplash is a game where basically there's a prompt and both players write an answer to the prompt, and then people vote on which prompt they want to win. And the issue with that game that I've seen is like one person will do like a funny prompt, like let's say, for instance, they say your mom, right? And everyone's like, oh, your mom, that's hilarious. I love that, right? And then the your mom prompt wins. And then what happens later in the game is that another player is like, oh, I'm going to do an epic callback and I'm going to put your mom again. And they put your mom. And it's like, oh, you called back to the your mom thing from earlier. That's great. Let's vote that and stuff. And everyone votes that. And then it just turns into people spamming your mom over and over and over again. And then it's like, by the end of the game, it's not a competition. It's just like an inside joke off where like, you're like, just people trying to reference the old thing that happened instead of trying to come up with a funny thing for the new thing. So it's like that is my issue with the Jackbox stuff. I think there's some Jackbox games that can balance that out a bit. Like I do like Drawful. I think Drawful is a bit better because you can't really do that as much. Same with Trivia Murder Party. Trivia Murder Party I like a lot, although that's definitely less like community input and more just like, you know, people doing trivia. But yeah, there's some Jackbox games that can be good, but like a lot of the you know, most iconic ones, I'm not the biggest fan of. But yeah, it can get a bit shitposty. And your mom, too much skibbity riz. I'm never upset by seeing too much skibbity riz. That's hilarious. That I was talking about this, and the dice jar actually pulled up a 6 for Gerbil. I don't know, 100 life points. No. The dice jar giveth and the dice jar taketh away. Looks like they're going out on the... Oh, no, we know the serpent, so not quite going out here. But they will take 50 damage from that. Flipping it up and passing back. I mean, this is probably going to be the end of the game. Serpent to attack over dice jar. Oh, but you could have souped down the dice jar. Souped down the dice jar. Oh, well, that was very, very funny. Very, very iconic game here. Awesome stuff. Even Dribble didn't end up winning. I mean, that was iconic. That was an iconic way to go out, for sure. So, great stuff there. Anyways, let's dive in to Jim Bob versus Hoy. Let's see how this goes. Yeah. Okay, it looks like... I'm just checking. I didn't just check the bracket here. Actually, I was checking on Discord, but yeah, Gerbil versus Splen, so that will move on to Splen versus Dump Truck, and we've got Hoy versus Jim Bob. So these are the semifinals. So very, very cool stuff. Replay rules for GOAT is that you don't... So basically, you can attack later in the turn. So you don't have to attack, and if you attack and clear the monster, you can attack later in the turn. Yeah. So it basically uses the replay rules, the older replay rules. That changes like after Reaper, I believe. After Reaper format, it changes things. Yeah. So yeah, you are able to attack with it later. It looks like they're going to bring back a tomato here. So this is a very, very good play from Hoy. You go Tomato Crash into Blade Knight, and then you bring out a Newdoria. Newdoria crash into Blade Knight, pop the Blade Knight, get in with Zalug, rip that last card out of hand, and then you've cleaned up the board quite a bit, and also gotten in, you know, dropping down Jim Bob to 1800. So very good stuff for Hoy here. Yeah, very, very good turn here. So Newdoria popping that Blade Knight, Zalug ripping that last card out of the hand, and dropping down 1800 and hitting an Exiled Force. I mean, that's a pretty good one. So yeah, only if the number of targets change though. Yes, that is true. That's a very, very good point, Madcap. Doesn't happen that often, but it can happen, and that is very, very important when it does happen. So yeah. Oh, knock there. That is brutal. Yeah, hitting a Mystic Sword in level 2. And do they have another monster in hand to finish this off? I don't know. Will they be able to do it? Nope. It looks like they're not finishing off this turn, but yeah, tagging in for no effect. I think no effect makes sense here. I'm generally in favor of just not using Dawn's mill effect. It just sort of like thins out the deck a bit for people and can potentially set up something in grave. You don't want to do that. But yeah. Yeah, that's just going to be the end of the game. Dawn attacking in, not playing into TT or anything like that. Just simply going in, attacking in, and winning the game there. So, yeah, good stuff. Seems like Tomato Control versus Warriors there. I assume Jim Bob's on Warriors. But we also got Splen versus Dump Truck. There we go. Dump Truck versus Splen there. And I think this is the Goat Control mirror match, which is going to be a very, very interesting mirror to watch. This one will probably go longer than the Hoy versus Jim Bob games. So I'm going to watch one game of this, and then we can dive back in to Hoy versus Jim Bob. But honestly, the Hoy versus Jim Bob match might be wrapped up by the time we reach it. But yeah, I'm always down for a GOAT mirror. I mean, there's a reason why GOAT Detox is based around GOAT Control mirrors, because a lot of people really do enjoy that gameplay. I enjoy that gameplay myself. And there's a lot of very, very skill-intensive plays that you can do in that. So, looks like creature swap going on here. Interesting creature swap on this board. Yeah, you just give him Tomato probably, because you can hit over Tomato later, potentially. But Tomato tagging into the old set. And what are they hitting here? Hitting a Spy. Oof. Not what you want to hit, probably, off that Tomato. And yeah, another Spy coming out from deck. And Splen passing back. I'm kind of curious what their ultimate goal was with the swap there. That's very interesting. But yeah, Splen is a great Goat Control pilot. So, like, I do trust in what Splen's doing here. I just don't understand it right now. But that's the great thing about seeing great players play these decks, is that even if you don't understand it right now, you learn something from it, right? So, like, I'm excited to see what happens here. I don't know what Splen gave to Dump Truck. It could be a Tomato of their own, so maybe they attack into Tomato and do stuff with that. But it looks like it is a Serpent, so they're going to attack into that there. Maybe they just got ways to stop the Tomato from being run over. What do I think about last turn OTK? Can the deck ever be meta in GOAT format? I don't actually think it can ever be meta in GOAT format. It could potentially top a tournament, maybe even, I doubt it would win a tournament, but maybe it could. But the issue with last turn is that if it ever does become meta, like let's say that people suddenly crack the deck and it becomes like a tier 1 deck, there are too many counters to it, right? Like Royal Decree in the main really, really hurts last turn OTK. And, you know, people just bring in those counters, and then like the deck then becomes bad, right? Of course, it would result in a change to how people main deck in the format, which would be a meaningful change. But because of that, the deck can never be like basically tier 1, in my opinion. We see something similar to this in Critter format, where in Critter format, Exodia won an event, which was very, very cool to see. And Exodia and Critter is a very, very cool deck. But the thing is, after that happened, people started playing discard cards in the main, whether it be Card Destruction, White Magical Hat, Robin Goblin. People started playing that in the main deck because they were like, well, Exodia is an actual threat, and I don't want to lose to that in game 1. So I'm going to bring this stuff in. And people realize that, you know, even if you don't face Exodia in your matches, having those discard cards in isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you're still ripping cards out of your opponent's hand. So that can be pretty good. So, you know, Exodia over time has fallen basically to the category of a rogue deck now, because people just play around it. You know, people play in the main deck things that kill it. And so it sort of forced it out of tier 1. I think last turn is sort of a similar scenario. I'm not saying that last turn, just on its own merits, could ever rise to the point that Exodia rose, but like if it ever does, it would just get slapped down, basically, is what I'm saying. So it's kind of unfortunate there are just decks like that out there that, like, you know, can never really be tier 1 because of things like that. But it's still interesting to think about, for sure. But yeah, last turn in a side deck is very, very interesting, because they don't necessarily have the counters in after siding, and then like you spread them with last turn. That's pretty cool. The issue is that over the course of a tournament, oh no, we disconnected. Okay, yeah. Rip. Well, if we're disconnecting, it seems like everyone else is probably disconnecting as well. So that did not bode well. Okay, we're back. We're back. Okay, not much has changed here. So, but yeah, it is very interesting. Like, you can bring it in the side, which is kind of cool. But over the course of a tournament, you know, as people realize what you're doing, then they can potentially bring in things to counter last turn from their side deck as well. So it's a bit iffy. But it's still cool to see people experiment with it. Like, Me saying that a deck is not tier 1 does not mean that people can't or shouldn't experiment with it. I think that people can and should experiment with this stuff because, like, that's the way that these decks move forward in these games. But I'm just saying, like, in my honest opinion, like, where I think the deck could eventually settle. But, oh, yeah, the disconnecting is brutal. So it seems like we're getting to see all what's happening now. So Zabor coming down to, tribute over the Sangan, running into Mirror Force, Jar's Greed getting fired now. Will the game be caught up by this point? Or are we still in fast forward mode? It looks like the game is caught up now, I think. The things are moving at a bit more of a reasonable pace. We'll have to see. We'll have to see who will win in the GOAT mirror. It's a bit tricky. Both players have the same amount of cards as well at this point in the game. Splen is down on life points. They do have 2 monsters versus Dump Trucks 1. Now, that doesn't necessarily matter as much. But it's sort of an interesting thing to note. They also have the initiative here to do something if they want to. They're just going to pass. Yeah, sometimes that's what you got to do in these games. That is a very, very, honestly, like, skill-intensive play to just pass. Because a lot of people, when they first get into formats like this, they're like, I got to be doing something every turn or else I'm losing, right? Because, if you're not doing something, you're stagnating. You're not progressing the board state. And so you're just losing the game, right? And I think it really does take some time and, like, playing a lot of games to really figure out that sometimes the best move is really to do nothing, right? Like, sometimes you don't need to be progressing the board state if you've got a good enough board state, and by progressing or by attempting to progress the board state, potentially playing into something that can stop you from doing stuff, right? So I do think that is a very, very good play from Splen. They're going for heavy now, so that means that either they were waiting for the second set there to shut off the scapegoat, or they're starting to do a play here. And it looks like they've got Moth for the meta, and then potentially tributing off that Moth for a 1,000 restrict, potentially either sucking up the set or sucking up the Gravekeeper's Spy here. So what will happen? Looks like they're going to go for the restrict there. What are they going to suck up? Bucciarati train scene. I will say the Bucciarati fight with Grateful Dead and was it Beach Boys? Is that okay? There is another swap there, given a Serpent over. And so this is actually working out very, very well for Splen here overall. Tagging into that Serpent, dealing 900, not 90. And yeah. But yeah, that fight is just so good. I forget the names of the stand users, but I remember the stands themselves, I think. I think it was Beach Boys for the fishing line stand. But yeah, such a good fight. Sook flipping down that restrict and then attacking over the restrict to get rid of that. So that is a nice thing in the GOAT control mirror match, is that players do have just inherent outs to their opponent's restricts. Going for a swap here to then get back the Sook. And Splen's going to give them the set. That's very interesting there. So I wonder what that set monster is. I mean, Splen knows it, so it clearly must be the advantageous thing to give for them. But very interesting. Serpent getting added back to hand. We know the set can't be a Spy. We know that much for certain. Could be a Sook. Could be, I don't know, a lot of different things it could be. Yeah, I will say the Bucciarati train fight is not my favorite fight in Part 5 of JoJo's. My favorite fight in Part 5 of JoJo's is Doppio versus Metallica. Like, that fight's so good. Yeah, Part 5 is a great part as well of JoJo's. And it takes place in Italy, tying back to the earlier discussion that we were having here. So it's all connected. I think, okay, I was just checking to see if the Boy vs. Jim Bob match was wrapped up, because I wasn't quite sure. But Sook flipping down that Spy, attacking into the set there, hitting into an Assure Priest. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why they're fine giving it over, because now that Assure Priest will return to hand, leaving Dump Truck with nothing. Nada. And now Dump Truck can't even really summon out the Sook. I mean, not that they want to summon out Sook. Oh, wait. Oh, that was an Assure Priest given earlier. Okay, that's very interesting. So that Assure Priest was swapped over earlier, I guess, and then swapped over later. Okay, that's very interesting. I lost track of that. over the course of the streaming. But, you know, nobody's perfect, you know. We all make mistakes. And it's part of being human, you know. Part of being human. You know. We can also jump over to Jim Bob versus Hoy if we want more action. Okay, it seems like it was just a reconnect thing. I thought they were just taking some time to think, but yeah, okay, I'm gonna keep it on the Splen versus Dump Truck game because I do think it's very, very interesting here. I either just got bad connection. So it seems like Splen set one and passed. Okay, it looks like they flipped up the spy, brought another spy, then summoned Sook probably and set it down. So yeah, that must be what it is. Yeah. I need to read JoJo's Part 9. I know it's coming out, but I just have not been reading it. But, yeah. Oh, I thought you were talking about the Muturai train scene where he's on the train and, like, the Grateful Dead thing happens on the train. And, like, he has to, like, basically divide up his heart to, like, prevent it from beating. And then, like, it's just so cool. But, yeah, you're talking about the first Muturai train scene with where he meets Giorno. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, because I was trying to think of the connection. I was like, how is this connected to what we're watching here? I mean, it's a great fight, but like I didn't know how it was connected, but that does make more sense there. Yeah. Or maybe I make an episode. It's been a while since I've seen part 5. Maybe he does the I don't know, it's been a while since I've seen part 5. But part 5 was great. I like part 5. I think if I had to rank my JoJo's parts, I would say if I'm including 7 and 8. Okay, so it is the thing where he stops his heart. Yeah, okay. I thought you were referring maybe to like the first one where he meets Giorno. But no, that's Giorno like not reacting to so yeah. So yeah. He has to stay still for Beach Boy. Yeah. When he stops his heart. Heart stopper. But yeah, part 5 is great. Part 5 is one of my favorite parts, I'd say. I'd say if I had to rank the parts, and this is going to be a pretty basic ranking, but, you know, I didn't claim to be not a basic person. If I had to rank the parts, I would say part 7 is my favorite. Just because I really like the setting, I really like the villain, I really like the journey, and I think it's really where JoJo's changes. I mean, JoJo's changed a lot over the course of its serialization, but I think the move from weekly to monthly and the move to a more mature magazine really does change a lot. So, I would say part 7's my favorite, then part 4, then part 5. Yeah, part 5 probably. Then part 2, then part 6, then part 8, then part 3, then part 1. That'd be my ranking. Maybe controversial. I put part 3 down so low, but part 3 has a lot of dead time that I just do not care for. It's good when it's good, but like getting there can be a bit awkward. But I think that draft competitive scene should be a thing in Retro Yu-Gi-Oh! I agree with that, Diogo. I think that is a very important skill to test, and something that Magic the Gathering's been doing for quite some time. So I'm kind of surprised that Yu-Gi-Oh! Never made that a thing. It tried at some point with like the battle drafts and things like that, but never really fully committed to that. I think it would be a really good thing to do as in a competitive sense, because it is a very cool aspect of the game. And it takes a different set of skills from playing constructed deck. And so yeah, I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense there. But yeah, meta for the Serpent there, and Splen thinking. Okay, restrict will hit the field, and they're asking for a targeting the new set, not these spies, which makes sense. And they're gonna suck that up. Could be a Serpent, could be someone else. Either way here, pretty good suck up. Is anyone currently reading part 9 of JoJo's? Because I really, I haven't heard anything about it, is the thing. Which is kind of weird, because normally when JoJo's parts comes out, you hear a lot about them. But I'd like to read it at some point. Yeah, I mean, the boosters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are kind of awkward, but I think cube drafts, would be the way to do it, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just, like, bust out the old battle packs. Those were pretty good for drafting, I think, I've heard. So, yeah, I think that could work. But yeah, looks like Restrict sucked up that Serpent, so Always rough when that happens. But very, very good baiting from Splen there. And this is a masterclass in how to play the goat mirror, I think. Like, I mean, it is just so skill intensive. But like, it's so cool. There's so much to think about at every step of the way. Yeah. I don't know. It's just such a cool mirror. I saw someone say yesterday that like they didn't like interaction in Yu-Gi-Oh! And they think it's like one of the game's like big flaws. But I don't know, you watch a game like this and you're like, it's so interactive. There's so much to think about at every stage. You got to think about what all those backers are. You got to think about like what you're doing next, what you're setting here to play around your opponent's interaction, things like that. And I don't know, it's just like interaction is such a vital part of the game for me to like make it interesting. That I just like, I don't know, it's just so good. It scratches that itch, and there's just so much to consider at all the points. Like Decree coming down to stop that jar. And yeah, Decree has been a long time coming. We didn't know that Dump Truck was on the main deck Decree. They hadn't gotten it for the previous jars, but it's so good. I love control mirrors in general. And this is one of the best in the game's history. So yeah. Honestly, that like this is why, honestly, Go Control became popular, right? Like, the reason why back in the day it became popular is because people thought the format was Go Control mirrors, and they would just play Go Control mirrors a lot. And they're like, this is really fun. I like this a lot. I want to play more. And they made Goat format, right? And the format's evolved over time. People still like the format. Like, I still like the format. People still view it as one of the best formats of all time because it is one of the best formats of all time. But, you know, it's good to watch games like this happen and remember that, like, this is where Go format got to start, right? So, yeah, I do agree that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is way more interactive than Magic the Gathering. I think that part of that is you don't have to worry about resource system. So, you know, snatching the Balter is pretty good there. But if that sets the last spy, I think. So it can't beat over the spy, was rough. But yeah, I do think it's more interactive because, like, with Magic, once the mana is used up, you don't have to worry about what your opponent's doing anymore, right? Which, like, you know, there's pros and cons to that, because you do know, for instance, that, like, okay, yeah, Sook on the Balter makes a lot of sense here. Flipping that down. I don't know why they wouldn't necessarily do this beforehand. I think what you want to do is you want to Sook down the Balter, flip it up, and then have it up so that way your opponent can't use spells. But might have been a misplay from Dump Truck's part here. But yeah, I mean, I get the fact that in Magic, there's the idea that, like, okay, my opponent has like 2 islands open. I got to play around these things, right? But I do think that, like, you know, it's just kind of awkward when that mana is used up and it's like, okay, I don't have to play around anything that my opponent's doing besides what they have on field, right? So yeah, I don't know. That's just my philosophy on it. But also battle and Magic, I just decide not to block, and Yu-Gi-Oh! You can kill my monsters. I'd actually argue that the combat system in Magic is actually a little bit more interactive than the combat system in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that may sound weird, but the reason for that is that when you're attacking in, you have to think, is my opponent going to block this? Are they not going to block this? Can I force them to block this if I want that? Can I force them to do this or this? Right? And so it honestly is kind of like attacking into a field of set face downs, right? And it's like, do they have Mirror Force? Do they have Saku? Like, do I bait out the Saku? Do I bait out the Mirror Force? Like, what do I do here, right? So I actually think that is a very good thing for Magic, the combat system. Like, I like it a lot. BLS, that's going to be the end of the game there. Yeah, because you attack over the Balter and then get in for a ton of damage. So, yeah. Yeah, I agree with Ben. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just kind of bigger number. Like, there are some subtleties to Yu-Gi-Oh!'s combat system, which is fun to sort of go through and, like, think about. But I think that on the whole, in Magic, like, there's a lot more to think about in terms of combat, and that makes it very interesting. Also, the fact that, like, if you attack with your monsters, they can't block your opponent's monsters the next turn. Or not monsters, but creatures, you know. So I do think that actually the combat system in Magic is a lot more interactive, despite the fact that you're not directly, you know, pointing the creatures at each other. There's a lot more interaction there and just the mental space, you know, to think about. So, yeah. But anyways, that's going to do it for game 1 of Splen versus Dump Truck here. Let's dive into Hoy versus Jim Bob if that game is still going on, which it might not be. It looks like it's not. Or is it? I don't know. Looks like it should still be going on. Let me search up. Okay, there it is. Yeah. So it's on game 3. Jim Bob is in a pretty commanding position here, I will say. Yeah, this is going to be pretty rough for Hoy to come back from. Now, there are some things they can do here. I mean, they do have a tomato to attack into Zalug, potentially. Jim Bob's thinking here, though, they might have a call. They might have a ring. Pretty scary for Hoy here overall. Okay, oh, they're thinking about whether to discard. Looks like they will indeed pitch that Serpent. Serpent comes back, but might as well get rid of it now in case there's a set Raigeki that, Raigeki break that is, that could potentially pop the back row in end phase. So yeah, it looks like Serpent's coming back. And Hoy's got to have something here to stop this incoming pressure, but might be a bit of a tough ask. Graceful Charity is going to be a good way to draw into something that can help here if it does go through, but a Solemn will be used on that Graceful, dropping Jim Bob down to 3850. I mean, that is a necessary Solemn there, so you got to do that. Hoy just setting a Serpent, passing back, probably will not be enough because it seemed like they didn't have Mirror Force last turn, so this should do it here. Attacking over the Serpent, attacking directly with the Assailant there. It's going to get in for 17, and then the Zalug will rip that last bit of life points away. Yeah, just a dead Dushoot, so that's going to be the end of the game. Dushoot is kind of awkward bringing against Warriors. I'm not the biggest fan of Dushoot against Warriors, so definitely, unfortunately, ended up poorly for Hoy here, but they were going first, so I guess that's why they brought it in. But yeah, either way there, pretty intense end of the game. So yeah, and that was definitely a right Solemn on the Graceful there. So going into game 2 of Dumptrick vs. Splen, Dushoot's definitely a good card to have in the GOAT control mirror because, you know, Sook's return to hand, Surebreach return to hand. You're playing long control games where, you know, the hands fill up pretty big. So, yeah, Dushoot's pretty good there. Surebreach's coming down and attacking in for 17. Will this connect? It looks like it will. Makes sense. If you got Scapegoat, you don't necessarily want to use it, and then just have everything go away to an Assure Priest, right? Life points are a resource too. You don't necessarily need to block all the life points coming down. Dust Tornado going for that new set, but hitting into a Decree. Oof, that's rough because Splen might have also wanted to set a card from that Dust Tornado in hand, but now they are unable to. Pot of Greed coming down, drawing 2, setting 1, passing back. Yeah, Decree still in the deck here, even though you're bringing in the Dushoots. Figured, like, okay, well, Dushoot's going to happen turn 1, and I don't need to worry about the Decree there. But Assure Priest attacking in for 17 again. Looks like Splen's in a bit of an awkward spot, but Splen did win game 1. So, you know, they can afford to take a game 2 L here. And Sword is pretty good. Sword pretty good. And blocking off this damage from coming in. Slowing down the game a bit. Graceful, of course, can definitely make things a bit awkward there for Splen, though, if Dumptrick draws into a way to out the swords. But we'll have to see if they are able to do that. Draw 3, pitch 2. Pitch in a Sook and pitch in a Zambira. Zambira, interesting card to bring in. I guess they really want to get over those spies. Setting 1, passing back. This is going to be turn, well, 1 turn on swords is gone. So next turn will be turn 2 and then turn 3, etc. But Knock hitting a spy there, so that'll banish other spies from the deck. And this will be very important information for what Splen might have in hand. So they're banishing all 3 spies. Okay, so no spies in hand. You don't need to worry about that. Dumptrick just banishing 1 more spy. The question is, does that mean that they've got another spy in hand? Or does that mean that they've got only 2 spies in the deck? I would assume that it means that they've only got 2 spies that they're playing. Because otherwise, you could potentially offload one of those spies off the Graceful. Because you figure, okay, well, this isn't really going to get much value after the first spy activates. So I can just pitch 1 now. So I think that they're only playing 2 spies in the deck. But going in to turn 3 on Swords, I believe here is the last turn there. And they're going to set 1, pass back, and Swords does expire at this point. That'll go away. And now Splen will draw for turn. What are they going to do here? What are they going to do? Setting 1, passing back. So that 1 could be a Scapegoat, it could be something else. But either way, Dumptrick has the Assure Priest here to just keep hitting in. They're going to go for an Upstart Goblin here. Well, that actually does change the clock with just attacking him with a Assure Priest. So I'm not sure I even would have gone for the Goblin there. But it looks like they're not going to run out that Priest and attack in. I think you just do run out the Priest and keep attacking in. I think it makes sense to me. Like, you've got Decree up, so they can't use, like, Bottomless. They can't use Saku. They can't use, like, a lot of stuff here. The only thing that stops an Assure Priest coming down is like Book, but I don't think you really care about that. So I think you just attack in with the Assure Priest. If they've got Goat, like they're still taking 1700 here because they're probably going to use Goat in end phase, and they can't suck up anything with the Restrict. So yeah, I don't know about that one. Because now you meta into Restrict here, suck up the set, and then that's kind of awkward for Dump Truck. And yeah, they are going to do that. So yeah, kind of rough. Restrict coming down, sucking up the set, and they could suck up a token, but I don't think it's likely. Yeah, and there goes that set. Could be a Moth, which is why they chose to set it here, but I think like it's a very telegraphed Moth if that's the case. But oh, set in 5 or set in 4 back there. So Solemn is probably back there. His Heavy Storm had not been used. But maybe Dump Truck isn't playing Heavy Storm. Okay, there's the Heavy Storm. So where's the Solemn? Yep, there's the Solemn. So that's going to stop that Heavy from coming through. Dropping Splen down to 2,800. So, you know, pretty decent number to get them at. But, you know, still pretty awkward. Knock coming down on that set, hitting a tomato there. Getting that out of the way. And Splen passing back to Dump Truck here. Drawing for turn. Going for a pot. I mean, that's a really, really good one to draw there. Drawing 2 off that pot. But do you have a way to deal with what Splen put down here? I mean, Sook would be pretty good, but 1 Sook is gone. So kind of rough. Tribe coming down. Looks like no negation on the Tribe summon. So it looks like Prio is going to be used. Pitching a card to call Spellcaster. And pitching a Serpent to call Spellcaster. Even better. Ring on the Tribe, so that'll shut that off at least. But this does put Splen down to a very tricky number of life points. Royal Decree coming down. I mean, that's pretty good. Not gonna lie. Oof. Yeah, that's just gonna be the end of the game. Splen being like, well, can't do anything against that. So yeah. There are potential draws that Splen maybe could have gotten, but like it was very, very unlikely at that point. So yeah, going into game 3. Very exciting stuff. Splen is going first here though, so they can bring in things to stop what Dump Truck's doing potentially. And they were doing some of that a little bit to stop the decree, but unfortunately, Dump Truck was able to out-decree them here in the end. So. It is exciting. Semifinals. And then it will be the winner of this versus Jim Bob. And then I'll put up a poll on YouTube to ask people, who you think will win. Diego says, Royal Decree is the best trap in the game. Well, it's a trap that stops all other traps. So if you think about it, it's at the top of the trap hierarchy, right? No other trap can deal with Decree. Well, except for a Dust Tornado change Decree. So, or a Solemn change Decree. Or I guess there is something that can deal with Decree. But when Decree's up, everything else is gone. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was very, very cool to see a pilot the Tomato Control Decoy, which is what I assume it is. But it looks very, very clean there. Very, very good. So, they made semifinals. I mean, that's pretty good. So, Upstart here coming down for Dump Truck drawing a card. And it's also kind of neat that we're kind of getting a classic matchup here in the end of the tournament here. We're getting Warrior versus Goat Control. No matter who wins this, Goat Control is moving on to the finals. And, I mean, yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Sook into Knock is a pretty good way to deal with Sangan there. Attacking for 11. And, yeah, setting 1. Sook goes back to hand. And, yeah. Oh, wow. That is good timing, though. You woke up at the perfect time. Generally, if someone, this goes for everyone out there. If someone basically says in the locals channel, right before we begin, if they're like, oh, can I have, a minute or two to, sign up? Just real quick. Because, I just need a minute or two to do it. And it will technically be a sign up after when we're supposed to start. But, yeah, I want to play and, it should take not much time. Then I'm generally fine, waiting for that person to sign up. So that goes to everyone out there. If you're in the situation that Hoy found themselves in today, then, feel free to just send a message in the Discord. And, yeah. Yeah, coffee is very necessary sometimes with waking yourself up, getting the plays going, getting the ideas flowing, So, yeah. It's a pretty good situation for Dump Truck here with that tomato. Jim Bob won against Hoy, so yeah, I think that was recorded in the Discord. Okay. Hoy, you need to report in the Discord. Yeah, report the result of the match, I guess. I guess I could manual it, but yeah. Oh, it's funny. I haven't really been opening the Twitch dashboard because I've got the basically combined chat on the stream, so I've just been looking at that. But I went over to the Twitch dashboard just to check, and we actually have been getting some people chatting in the Twitch dashboard. Of course, those people are all bots trying to send people to shady links. But cool to see people sending things regardless. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, I got to do more with my Twitch side of things. Just Twitch has these like goals on the creator dashboard and stuff, and the current goal is like we're trying to get 50 followers and 5 people chatting. We already got the 5 people chatting, but 50 followers is the next sort of goal for that. So if you watch on Twitch as well, definitely give a follow there. And I'll probably be doing some more. I did a Twitch exclusive stream a while ago with just Airblade testing. I'll probably be doing more Twitch exclusive streams at some point in the future. Maybe just doing gaming content. We'll see what people want me to do there. But yeah, should be fun. I might leave that up to my patrons. I might not, but I'm never going to switch to Twitch permanently, Renata. Like YouTube has always been the thing that I started with. It's the thing that I will continue to do. So don't worry, I'm not going to switch to Twitch permanently. I just figure like sort of diversifying with Twitch, like having YouTube and Twitch things like that are firing off on both cylinders can just grow the community more and grow the viewership more. And like if you grow the community more, you get more people playing in the events, you get bigger representation for these formats, you get the word out as well. So don't worry, I'm never going to permanently switch to Twitch. YouTube will always be something that I do. And it'll always be a priority, but I do think like having Twitch as something else that I do as well is something good too. But yeah, but as I mentioned, like the Twitch exclusive stuff would probably just be like, gaming content or something like that. I did do a Twitch stream where I just was playing Airblade like over and over again, like which is fun, but it's not really anything like unique to what I've been doing like on YouTube. So yeah, no, I'm from what I've done of Twitch so far, I'm not the biggest fan of it as well. It just seems like YouTube's better, honestly, like especially with what you can do in a stream on YouTube while it's going on. Like you can rewind a bit, you can like jump around a bit as well. So yeah, I'm generally a much bigger fan of YouTube. I've never really gotten into Twitch that much, but I figure some people really like Twitch more than YouTube and stuff. And for those people, I figure having a Twitch as well could be good. Hey, we got a Twitch follow. Thank you, Robbie92 there. So yeah, thank you for that. But yeah, but don't worry, we're never gonna put Twitch as the single sort of streaming place. I started out as a YouTuber. I'm always gonna be a YouTuber. So yeah. But yeah, there's a board coming down, popping that Warrior Lady attacking in for 24, and it looks like Dumptruck in a pretty commanding position this game. Splen has not been able to sort of get off to the races here, and that decrees shutting off stuff. I think that might be right. I don't actually know, but thank you, Robbie. Yeah, if you got a YouTube and a Twitch and you're watching on YouTube and want to support on Twitch, then definitely just head on over there, give a follow. Doesn't cost anything to give a follow. So yeah, thank you so much, Robbie. And that's gonna do it for this match as well. Yeah. Dumptruck was just able to get off to a commanding lead here and was able to use that decree to go to victory. But now we've got Go Control versus Warriors, so we'll have to see who exactly will win. I guess we'll have to manual the loss between Jim Bob and Hoy here. There we go. Okay, there we go. So, yep. So that will wrap up to the finals there. And yeah. Oh, I think the sub thing only happens when we reach a certain level on Twitch, I think. I don't actually know because I'm really inexperienced with Twitch. I think it's like I can check there's there's like a road to reaching that point, I think. Yeah, I think it's like you need 50 followers first, because it's similar to like how YouTube does it, where like YouTube doesn't monetize you until you reach 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of watch hours. And I think Twitch is a similar way, where you need a certain amount of followers, you need a certain amount of stream time, you need a certain amount of this and that to actually get to subscribers. So I think once I reach 50 followers, yeah, we can do that. But yeah, I'll make an announcement on Discord once that is possible. Honestly, I could just make an announcement on Discord saying like, hey, if you want to follow to just grow the community more. So I think that might be something that I do. But yeah, I'll definitely let you know. And yeah, I appreciate the sub. I mean, yeah, I'm very unused to Twitch, so I'm not sure exactly how to initiate everything there. But I'll keep you all posted for when I do figure that out. So yeah. But Decree is the dumpy special. That is very true, Hoy. Dumptruck does like his decrees. Yeah. I'll also do a poll. I'm not sure how to do the poll on Twitch. This is another thing. I'd like to do polls on both Twitch and YouTube, but I don't know how to do the poll on Twitch. But I can do a poll on YouTube. So I'll put that poll on YouTube there and start that up here saying who will win. And the choices are Dump Truck or Jim Bob. Both very powerful duels in their own right. And both people who have made it to the finals of these locals quite a bit. So, yeah, who will win? And once I figure out how to do it on Twitch, I'll try and do polls on Twitch as well, just to see that. But I think you need, like, extensions to do that I've not been able to download yet. So, yeah, I'll figure all that out in the future. But, you know. If y'all do want me to do some like gaming content on Twitch, in addition to Yu-Gi-Oh, let me know what games you'd like to see me play. I'm not the biggest gamer in the world, but I can try and accommodate. Right now, the big things I'm doing in gaming, I'm just doing some like personal grinds for me. So one thing I'm doing is I'm playing through the advanced lobby in the Celeste Strawberry Jam mod, which is really, really fun. I like Celeste a lot. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I've been slowly working my way through the modded content. And yeah, I'm not the best Celeste player in the world. But, you know, the advanced lobby's been very fun. I have been improving my skills there, but it definitely is a very, very tricky thing there. I'm also trying to work on a Hollow Knight Steel Soul run. You know, I like Hollow Knight a lot too. I've never done a Steel Soul run, but Steel Soul is very tricky because if you die once, then you lose all your progress. So I've definitely failed in the late game and in some steel runs I've done in the past, but I've never done a successful one, so that would be fun to do as well. BTTV. Okay, I'll write that down because it is good to know, so that way I can do that in the future. BTTV. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Granada. Yeah, I'll try adding that in the future. Yeah, but Jim Bob's getting a bit aggressive here with Warriors, which makes sense because that's what Warriors wanted to do. But the decree coming down will potentially stymie Warriors a little bit. They do like their trap cards. And yeah, this could make things a little bit awkward for Jim Bob here. But of course, if Jim Bob's just going on the aggressive, then the traps aren't really as necessary. But decree is definitely a very good card here. So Pot is also a very good card. Arguably better than decree. This might be a controversial take. I'm going to go out on a limb. I will say Pot agreed, probably better than Decree. I think it almost guaranteed better than Decree. But of course, a lot of this is situational, you know. Moff getting back Graceful Charity. That's rough. That's rough. You hate to see it. But Dream Moff said another, so that could be a spell. Could be, you know, something else. Graceful coming down here. Drawing 3, pitching 2. And which ones will get pitched? Which ones will get drawn is the question. So I don't think YouTube automatically detects whether the stream is non-Yu-Gi-Oh related, but the issue with making a YouTube stream non-Yu-Gi-Oh related on a Yu-Gi-Oh channel is that it messes with the way the algorithm recommends things to people. Because if YouTube generally recommends my videos and streams to people who like Yu-Gi-Oh, and they see a game that is not Yu-Gi-Oh, and they might not like it, they're like, oh, I don't really like this. I don't really want to watch this. And so they either don't watch it for that long or they leave a dislike, which, I mean, if they want to leave a dislike, they can. I would say, please don't leave dislikes on my streams unless you like really hate me, which case maybe don't watch my streams. But Yeah, it's just like more the like when YouTube sees that, where they see people aren't engaging with it, they see people aren't, leaving a like, they don't see people aren't really doing much with it. Then YouTube be like, okay, then we shouldn't recommend this stream to people who like Yu-Gi-Oh! Because clearly they don't like this. So then it stops recommending my streams to people as much, and then it's sort of like a slippery slope. So that's why people generally like make second channels for when they're like, I've got a YouTube niche and this sort of thing, but I want to sort of branch out into this. They generally make a second channel to do that because the second channel is sort of starting on a fresh page, and the recommendations then for that channel won't mess with the recommendation for the original channel. So I could also make a second channel, but like I feel like I'm not a big enough YouTuber to really make a second channel right now. But yeah, exactly. So if I do something different where I'm just like, I want to stream this game, see if people like it, then I would do that as Twitch exclusive. But yeah. Oh, thanks, Renai. You're one of the old heads, the old people who were with me from the very start. Thank you so much for your continued support there. I mean, Yu-Gi Kaiba format was a really, really fun time. I really enjoyed that era of the channel because it was also a simpler time too. It was a time where I felt like I could just, spend forever on a format and just like, dive into all the sort of nooks and crannies. And Yu-Gi Kaiba was a really good format for that because it is a very limited card pool and people have done so much with it. So, it's just very, very good format, close to my heart. Of course, the stall mill stuff has turned some people away from it, but I still think it's fun, and I still love it a lot. So, yeah, that was a great time, and yeah, I'm really glad that it was able to help you in buying real cards and playing it with like real friends because like I don't know, Yu-Gi-Oh is meant to be played in person. We play online a lot of the time because it's a great way to connect people from across the globe. But like at the end of the day, it didn't compare to sitting across the table and doing that sort of thing. So, yeah. I'm really happy to hear that. It warms my heart because that's why I do this sort of thing, to sort of expose these formats to people, get people playing things that they might enjoy that they may have not even realized that they enjoy. So, yeah. Hoy said, it does not seem to care if you lie about you are playing something different than what you label it. For the recommendation of that individual stream, yes, I would say, right? Like if you label a stream as Yu-Gi-Oh!, then people will be recommended to it who like Yu-Gi-Oh! The issue is if those people are recommended to it and then dislike the stream, then it'll impact your future streams. So that's the tricky part of things. But yeah. I mean, stream sniping is really rough. I probably wouldn't like play too many like that. That's the issue with like playing like live games against people on stream as well. Like where I don't generally play Yu-Gi-Oh! Like against people on stream. I did that with Airblade because Airblade is like, if you stream snipe, you stream snipe. It's like Airblade's Airblade. It's gonna just stomp you no matter what, basically. But I think in general it's tricky. Like if I was playing, for instance, a Goat Mirror, right? Like, and I'm playing against someone, not to say that I would think that they stream snipe, but like, if they do stream snipe, it is backbreaking because they know which backer they hit, they know what to play around, they know what not to play around, etc. So it can be very awkward in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh! To actually play against people live on stream. But again, not that I think people would do that, but it's just something that you have to keep in mind. But I don't know. I enjoyed playing Airblade against people on stream. I might do sort of similar things like that in the future to say like stream sniping be damned, But yeah, I do want to play Dark Souls at some point on stream. I think there's this conversation in the Discord about me just going through the Souls games. Unfortunately, you can't get Demon Souls on PC. You need PlayStation for that. I don't have a PlayStation. I'm not going to shell out for a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 5 Pro. So, I'm not going to play Demon Souls in that journey. But, I mean, maybe someday. But if Dark Souls goes on sale at some point, I'd happily pick that up and play a bit of Dark Souls on stream. That would be fun. I do like Souls-like games. I mean, I mentioned Hollow Knight earlier in the stream that I'm playing through that on Steel Soul Run. So, yeah, I think Dark Souls would be a fun time. But this might end up being a bit awkward for Jimbob because that Snatch Shield is going to give Dumbstruck a fair amount of life points here. And Tsukiyomi can just run over a Restrict here equipped with that Snatch. So, yeah, not looking the best for Jimbob here. It might be emulatable. That is something I could do. I could look into emulation. Does Twitch allow you to play games with emulators like that? Because if it does, then I do that. But if it's treading some, potential iffy territory, then I probably wouldn't do that, but I could get a PS3. I mean, those are probably pretty cheap, so I could set that up honestly. But yeah, I mean that is fair. Like, critter format definitely isn't for everyone. I like critter format because it's like it feels to me honestly kind of like when the game becomes Yu-Gi-Oh, because Yu-Gi-Oh Hype is great, but it sort of operates on a different axis than any other format, right? You're doing different things. Like attack and defense matter a lot more than effects. There are like very few effects in the game. And it just feels like a completely different game than formats like Critter, for instance, where Critter, it becomes a lot more about monster effects. And also you get Heavy Storm, which is a big thing as well. That some people like, some people don't like. But there's a lot of different things in Critter that I think then turn it into what we know of as Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So I really like Critter a lot, but again, it's not for everyone. As you say, there's a lot of chaos in these games sometimes where no chaos monsters, but you do have some wild stuff going on. So yeah, definitely not for everyone, but I think it's really, really fun. So I think like of the formats that could get like super big in terms of like broad retro appeal from the DM era, I think Critter is definitely one of them. The issue with Critter is that if you have a Critter tournament like in person, time rules are just going to be I mean, it's just going to be really bad with time rules because Critter games last a long time. They're big grinds. You've got a card to play around time in the main deck in the form of Cannon Soldier that every deck plays. Solemn Judgment really messes things up because like you get into situations where like you don't want to Solemn because you're going to wind up with less life points than your opponent going into time. Like there's a lot of weird stuff in Critter that makes it interact really terribly with modern time rules. But yeah, I will consider it, Mirror. I mean, it would be something that I'd like to do at some point, doing the Dark Souls stuff, because I did mention it in the Discord at one point. So it would be cool to be able to do Demon Souls. But go for a super slim model. They're considered the most long-lasting. The OG one has heating issues. A lot of cool exclusive titles on that console. Okay, I will keep that in mind. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, and I think PS3 would be the best one because I feel like, that's like the old era of PlayStation, right? Like PS4 is still like, it's more modern. Like PS5 is more modern. But like PS3, like the OG PlayStation games that everyone thinks of, I think when they think about the PlayStation games from that time period, are like you can play them all on PS3. So it would be a fun thing to do. I never really had consoles as a kid. The one console my family had was a Wii and then a Wii U, which I love Wii games. Wii games are really fun. But it's definitely different from having a PlayStation or Xbox or something like that. I was always a PC gamer. I didn't really game that much. There was like one series of games that I did play that I doubt anyone has really played besides me, but I really enjoyed them. I really liked the Nancy Drew games, which sound really weird. It's like the Nancy Drew games. That's why do you enjoy those? But I do think that they're some of the best point and click adventure games out there. They don't have a lot of the BS that a lot of the earlier point and click adventure games do have, and they're just really fun. They often dive into historical mysteries. There's like secret passages you can uncover, a lot of different characters to talk to. It's just really fun. I like them a lot. And so I've played through a lot of the Nancy Drew games. I haven't played through all of them. I've played through most of them, but that was sort of my game on the PC. I played a lot of those. But yeah, it looks like we've received 100 messages today with Restream chat, and I can tweet about it if I want to, although I haven't connected my Twitter to Restream, so I'm not going to do that. I didn't really use Twitter anyways, so I guess X, but like, everyone calls it Twitter. It's still Twitter in my heart, but yeah. I will be making videos in the future. The issue with making videos about older formats like now is that like generally, so I want to keep it on a time frame where like I can keep moving forward in the monthly tournaments. So that basically means I got to cover a format a month, and a lot of the formats do have a lot going on in them. So that means that like a lot of the time I have to prioritize formats that come later in the game's history, but I do have an idea for a new video series that I'm planning on doing that might make it, so that people can get me, playing some of the older formats again, maybe even playing formats in the future as well. So yeah, I'm thinking about implementing that. I think I mentioned it in a YouTube comment a long time ago, but like I've been putting a lot of thought about how to actually implement it, but it would be more like a community voting on like a different format I play outside of the main sort of format that I'm on, and that would be like once a week. I'd do a video on that and dive into that. So yeah, we'll see how I implement that. I'm still trying to figure it out. It might just be like
I asked like my patrons of a certain tier, like what format do you want to see me play as like the one format thing a week? Because if I open it up to like every single person, it might be like too many suggestions, too many votes, things like that. But I'm still trying to figure out how I'll exactly implement that. So I should probably be rolling that out like within 2 weeks. Probably not next week, because next week's going to be busy for me for just a variety of reasons. But I think 2 weeks from now, I'll probably be implementing that sort of thing. So that will then lead the option to, showing off some unique kind of games, showing off some, maybe future games. I know one commenter wants to see Teledad gameplay. So maybe showing off Teledad gameplay, showing off just a variety of different things. So look forward to that. It should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how that goes. But if anyone has suggestions for a series like that, like either in terms of implementing it or a name for it, let me know. I do think that having a series that's like a series, just helps with like algorithm stuff, because people like getting into a series and be like, oh, when's the next episode coming out, right? We'll have to see how it goes. But it is going to be a pretty good turn for Jim Bob. I mean, Pot and Graceful. I mean, that's pretty good. They are 3,100 life points, though, so a bit of a low life point total. But, I mean, Pot and Graceful can get them out of a variety of situations here, so. Pigeon, Kaiku, and Ring makes sense. I mean, Decree is, in the game somewhere, so you don't necessarily want to do that. Sure, Priest coming down, attacking over those tokens there, and that will indeed go through. No Decree's been played by Dump Truck yet, though, so, we don't know whether they've got the Decree online or not, but Duo coming down there, ripping 2 cards out of Dump Truck's hand. Which 2 cards will get ripped? That's the question. Question on everyone's minds. Okay, closest to deck is what's going to be ripped, and it's going to rip in a Sure Priest there. Pretty good hit there. Nothing's, not going to lie. Ripping a Tsukiyomi as well, so ripping out both of those spirit monsters. But yeah, I'll be making a post about it in the server later, but that might not be for like another week. Because again, I'm planning on getting out like in 2 weeks, because next week is busy for me. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I think it will definitely be a fun time, and no matter how it's implemented, I think it'll be nice just to sort of be jumping around between different formats that maybe I haven't given a lot of spotlight to in a while. Or just that people want to see from me. So, it'll be fun. And I'm even open to like, as I said, either formats that I've already covered that I haven't covered in a long time, or formats in the future that people just want to see me play like early. I'm open to all that. Like, if people want to see me struggle through playing tier elements, I can do that. I actually did play that on that's the end of the game. Yeah, Zaborg popping that set monster. And that'll be it. So, Goat Control taking a game off Warriors pretty convincingly there. But Goat Control does have a pretty good Warrior matchup, so it makes a lot of sense there. But, I actually did play Tier Elements with Janjo from the Janjo Zone on the Top Deck Guys podcast this past week. So, if people do want to see that, that was very fun. And I definitely got an appreciation for that modern format a bit more. But I'm going to wrap things up pretty soon. I just want to play the replay here as always, in the final sort of thing here. Let's see if the poll was correct. It seems like 75% of people figured that Dump Truck would win, and it looks like, 71%. Okay. So, well, I'll end the poll there. But either way, a lot of people expected Dump Truck to win. They did indeed win. I mean, Dump Truck is the locals legend who's won the most of these locals in the past. So they are a legendary locals player. And they're taking another one. They're taking a GOAT victory here now as well. So very, very cool to see them take that down there. And yeah, very good stuff from everyone who played. So thank you all for playing. Thank you all for watching as well. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, if you want to join in on future locals, head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server. It is the place where we hold these things, and also it's a great place to get games in any of the formats that are featured on the channel. So, if you want to get Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, Critter games, anything up to Demise format, and potentially even beyond. I mean, people are generally open to playing whatever on the server. Definitely head on over to there. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. I hope you all enjoyed as always. Thank you all for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff, and follow on Twitch as well. Do the Twitch stuff too, so that we can get up to the sub level there. And thank you so much for this super chat, Granada. I appreciate it so much. And thank you for watching. I mean, I make this content for y'all, so it warms my heart to see that it's having a positive effect out there, and that it's making a difference. So I really appreciate the super chat there. It means a lot to me. And yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm just so happy with the community that we've built and the locals that we hold every week. So we're going to keep the locals coming. We're going to keep the videos coming, and it should be a lot of fun. But I think this will be it for me today. Thank you all for tuning in as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.